Hi, my name is Siri Mirav and I'm a writer and an artist. And it so happens that I have a project I'm working on. A 7 years old project, to be precise. And I thought maybe I do need to talk a bit about how it all came to this point. I decided to make a video where I'll compile all the general info about it so it can be an easily accessible introduction for all who will be interested in it in the future. We'll have a few chapters to make this video more structured. I'll start with a general introduction to the project, then I'll tell a little bit of the history behind it, then I'll give a short summary, and in the end I'll talk about main characters. By the way, it is them in the speed paint. So without further ado, let's get into this. Little Fairies is a temporary, or maybe not temporary, I don't really know, name for a book series that I'm writing. It is a fantasy, and generally I can describe it as a found family and coming-of-age story of main characters, but also a story about Fairy Village, the main location of these books. Right now this book series is not finished and really isn't near completion either. I plan to write 5 parts, this number can change in the future, and at the moment there are only 1.5 books written. I know it's not ideal for 7 years of work, but it is what it is. Also, the first book that is already written is huge. I tried to break it into 2 parts, but I don't like the structure of it. So for now it remains how it is, and I'll think about it in the future. Also, the first book is not published. My plan always was to finish the whole series, to edit all of the books to my maximum capacity, and then publish it all. For this reason, for the longest time, I had no idea how to deal with Little Fairies on social media. I'm not a fan of posting art and info about unfinished projects, but the problem specifically with Little Fairies is that I create a lot of art about these characters and locations, and without posting it, there simply will not be a lot of art for me to post. As I said in the beginning, this is my main project, and it means that I spend a lot of my time and creative energy on it. So I will continue to post art about Little Fairies, some of which will be completely inaccurate in a few years. You can treat it like a behind-the-scenes content, not like an official promotion. The other thing is that for the moment the story is written in Russian, which is my first language. I think you can guess by the fact that I'm speaking English right now that I want to also have English versions of the books. But I think it is a problem for the future me, because right now my English is not ideal and the books are not finished. Writing in Russian does mean though that some concepts and names that I use right now are rough translations and adaptations and may change in the future. The story of writing Little Fairies feels like a widely known story of a beginner project that has grown too big and too ambitious. It all started in 2019. My hands at the time were full with other books I was working on, and I had no intention to create another big project, especially because I was in a little bit of a slump. I now understand that it was mostly because I grew out of my first ideas. I've spent so much time and energy trying to fix their non-existent plots and somehow condense all of my random childhood ideas into something coherent. It was hard, unenjoyable, and probably also impossible. Looking back, these were the perfect conditions for a new project, a fresh start if you will. Little Fairies started like a strange, almost fanfiction, inspired by random things that I genuinely loved from my childhood, all because I thought that I could write a better story. Yeah, I admit it started like a little bit unserious fix-it project. And the problems that I tried to fix were mostly my personal pet peeves and also world building and plot inconsistencies. By the way, now I know how hard it is to write a consistent plot and world building for a long story. It is so much easier to analyze the story from the side than to actually come up with everything yourself. But I was really inspired to try. Considering that I wanted a consistent plot, I started to work on a plan. The thing is, it was my first time actually writing a big plan. I was quickly lost in these abstract ideas and decided that it'd be easier to just write down in a draft everything that I had at the moment. This first draft was so bad and so empty that I genuinely think it was not readable or understandable for anybody else besides me. The amazing thing was that writing a bad draft really helped me to actually get started. Making the working process so easy meant that I started to prioritize working on Little Fairies to any of my other at the time serious projects. This one was easy to start on, I had zero expectations from myself and made decent progress every day. Gradually, Little Fairies turned from a side thing to a main project. I don't know when and how it happened, but suddenly I had dozens of chapters written and ambitions for the story started to grow exponentially. One of the most important things about the working process of Little Fairies is that even if it was not my first book attempt and even not my first finished book, it was my first time actually writing a story as big and as long. Little Fairies had more characters than the previous books, a larger scope, and an actual important location that needed to be properly developed. So in a sense, this book still was and is a project that taught me how to write. And more specifically, it still teaches me how I personally love to write. This meant that with the rapid growth of my writing skills and my understanding of the story, some things needed to be adapted and rewritten. This justified 2 major draft revisions. One of them took almost 2 years to complete. And I still consider that it was absolutely necessary for this story to survive and also for me to continue to have passion to work on it. Right now, I am at the point where the story mostly progresses forward. My pace over the years was greatly affected by just general life struggles. Sometimes I didn't have time and energy to write for months. And also over the years I took some time off from Little Fairies to work on the other book ideas that I have. I'll probably continue to do so in the future because I think it was absolutely great for my creativity and for preventing burnouts. Long story short, Little Fairies is a work in progress. I understand how long it would probably take me to finish everything that I planned, and I prefer to just move forward to this goal one step at a time, trying to do the best that I can. I love this project very much, and it probably will be a big part of my channel just because it is a big part of my life. And now I can finally talk about the books themselves. In this world there are a lot of different planets. Most of them are pretty little and filled with magic. And sometimes amongst humans are born fairies, creatures that are mostly humans, but influenced by magic they become closer to dragons in some ways. For example, they have their own ability to use magic and they can grow wings. As well as dragons in this world, they also don't have the ability to reproduce in a traditional sense. They just leave behind their magic after death that continues as a part of the general magic flow and cycle. It turns out that magic is a very powerful resource, and people from different planets come up with their own ways of handling it. In some places, sadly, they don't quite care about fairies' safety. Fairies' magical wings are useful for a lot of things. In situations like this, it is only natural that communities of fairies were born from the desire to protect each other, and now exist almost like myths and legends. Fairy Village is one of these communities. Based on the planet Rinia, it is a pretty small settlement deep in a magical forest. It doesn't have a permanent and stable population. Fairies come here from different places and from different lives. Some of them decide to stay, some of them don't. It also doesn't have a stable fairy population because throughout history, Fairy Village completely died out a lot of times. It was rebuilt over and over at the same place by a new generation of fairies who are willing to try to build this community again. The thing is that there is no ideal places, and this 45 years old Fairy Village is not an exception. To survive, this community needed to adopt some rules. Most of them are pretty simple. For example, this one that says that fairies with strong magic need to become warriors who protect the village from the dangers of the forest and also from humans. Effa, Sonya, Lynn and Sally all came to the fairy village for different reasons. The thing that they have in common is that they all have a great deal of magic, which is how their fate in the village is decided. Now they'll have to build a new life here while becoming warriors for the village that should have given them safety. And you know what? I really struggled with writing a summary for Little Fairies. This story was not created with a clear and genius idea in mind, which makes it hard for me to describe what is going on and why people should care. Little Fairies as a project exists because while writing my unserious and generic book, I fell in love with the fairy village. I created this place and I just didn't want to leave it. I became fascinated by it. I needed to see it written by me. And for the plot summary, for now I'll just say that there is a plot in this book. A little funny story from the past years of working on Little Fairies. So, one time I gave my draft to a friend to read. I'm honestly really impressed that she read it because I'm sure it was written horribly. And after 100 or something pages, she asked me when the plot is going to start. You know, while I was sure that the plot is already going strong. It was so shocking at the time that I started to question my own logic and reasoning. So now I'll just say the joke that Little Fairies has no plot. But I kinda don't know, maybe it doesn't. I think that it does, but I cannot be sure anymore. The good part is that I have a lot of time to come up with a better way of writing a summary for Little Fairies. Or maybe I'll learn to write summaries in general, hopefully. So yeah, right now I'll leave it at that. And now we can move on to the characters. At the beginning of the story there are 4 of the main ones. I'll be talking about them in the order that they appeared in the speed paint. Let's go! Effa was a normal 15-year-old girl who lived in a small town and went to school. She liked to draw and to read and slept with her favorite plushies. Except she was not a girl, but a fairy with a lot of fire magic. This is how one day fairy hunters found her right near her home. Another fairy, Sonya, helped her to escape and told her about Fairy Village, a place she is going to. The fear of the fairy hunters made Effa's decision to go with Sonya so much easier. This is how she ran away from home and from her parents. But not without questioning her decisions, not without regret. Effa is not really confident. She is shy, scared to take any decisions alone, and likes to feel that she is doing everything right. Without her parents and the normal and predictable future, she felt lost. Fairy Village, though, gave her a new structure and a new purpose. She was placed to become a warrior for the village, against her will, but also not, because she likes this certainty. She likes to feel that she is in the right place, that she is not disappointing anyone, that she is doing what everybody expects her to do, which makes it kinda easy to manipulate her, sadly. I draw Effa a lot and in different periods of her life. Some of the drawings may have different vibes from the others, but it's all her. And with that, I will continue with the next character. Sonya was 18 when she finally decided to run away from home. Being a princess meant that she left behind her country, but the only thing she cared about was that she left behind her little sister, who now had to stay with the same abusive father Sonya was running away from. And after finally escaping, drowning in guilt and tired and depressed, she made her way to Fairy Village, a place she was not even sure actually existed. On the way there, she found and saved Effa, who knew nothing about magic, fairies and protecting herself. Taking Effa to the Fairy Village with her was not a plan, but it happened anyway. Sonya was not surprised that Fairy Village was not an ideal place like in fairy tales. She was expecting something like that. But trying to find another new place seemed harder than just going along with everything that Fairy Village wanted from her. She was not happy here, but it's not like she was happier before. In Fairy Village, Sonya got a new neighbor, a strange guy named Lin. They are not quite enemies, but also not really friends. She doesn't talk to Effa, even though Effa sometimes still clings to her as if they are not strangers. And Sonya writes letters to her sister back home, the only important person in her life who she just suddenly left behind. My drawings of Sonya have different designs throughout the years, mainly because I still try different outfits for her. Also, some of my favorite drawings for Little Fairies are drawings of Sonya. So let's go to the next character. Lin was 20 when he left home, and he didn't want to admit how much he wanted for Fairy Village to exist. He lived his whole life as an illegal citizen in his own home country just because he was born a fairy. He lived in the shadows while putting what is left of his family in danger just by existing. Lin left his home to find a place where he could live, work, build a future, and maybe also help his brother and father back home. In Fairy Village, he was one of many, and he was normal. He had the same rights as everybody else. It was such a strange feeling that it even overpowered his disdain of becoming a warrior. But that was not the main reason why he decided to stay. He was placed in the room with Sonya, but it turned out that the neighbors next door, Effa and Sally, were kids. Technically teenagers, but definitely not of age to live without any adult supervision. And Lin was not the adult that they needed. Effa and Sally latched onto him anyway. Somehow, Fairy Village became a place where he could live, was able to work, to play music, and to hope for some kind of future. Even if this future may not be as peaceful as he initially desired. So Lin is the one who probably has the least number of drawings from me, but lately I've really enjoyed writing him. I don't want to leave him behind, and I hope that I'll be able to draw him more in the future. Let's go to the final main character. Sally was born on a small planet with a big forest and was pretty young when they decided that living in the forest was much better than living with people. Their magic helped them to communicate with plants, who were kind enough to become their friends. They discovered each and every part of that forest, and by the time that they turned 12, this planet had become too small for them. When Sally was little, an older fairy who looked after them told them about Fairy Village. Sally didn't particularly care about it, but there was a part of the story that interested them from the beginning. There was a forest that surrounds Fairy Village, a forest full of magic, times and times more interesting than this one. And Sally really wanted to explore this forest. They traveled to Rainier, and the first thing that they experienced there was a tree that tried to eat them. It turned out that the forest around Fairy Village was not just big and interesting, it also was really dangerous. And Sally decided at that moment that they needed to conquer this place, to see this forest from the start to the end, to become its friend, or to win if they stayed as enemies. Sally met Effa and Lin in the Fairy Village, and then the other new friends. Somehow this place became their new home, and with new people on the side, they are ready to take on the challenge of exploring this dangerous and magical forest. I personally absolutely adore drawing and writing Sally, and I hope that there'll be even more to share about them in the future. So here it is, all that I'm willing to share about this project at this moment of time. I hope that I managed to give some kind of context to what I am doing. And for those who watched this video all the way to this point, I am very thankful. If somehow you're interested in the fate of Little Fairies, just know that so am I. I genuinely hope that I'll be able to finish these books, and it would be just great if when it happens someone will be here to read them. If you're interested in more of my art and sketches, check out all of my other social media profiles. All the links will be down in the description. It was Iri Mirav, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye bye!